Here's a special bonus edition of the British Airways fleet update. It's about the winter 25 timetable changes. No music, no jingle, straight into it. We're going to have a look at the highlights. I'm not going to talk about every single change to the schedules for this winter. So if you're looking for that, you'll have to look elsewhere, but I will touch on some of the fleet implications. So some of the headlines: Bangkok is back at Gatwick. There's some expansion of Middle East services, the usual seasonal changes that I'll talk about, and restoration of some 2025 service suspensions. For example, Dallas Fort Worth with the BA 193 is back. So let's work our way through just a few of those changes. Well, relatively last minute in the planning process, but New York JFK gains a 787-10. Dreamliner vice a 777 going out from London Heathrow on the BA 177 back on the 174. Barbados, of course, reverts, as it does each winter in recent years, to a 2 aircraft operation, and there'll be a 4-class 777-200ER and a 787-10. Cape Town is doing really well. Of course, South African Airlines still not up and running for long haul operations to London. London to South Africa is a very strong route. So Cape Town is enhanced for the winter to 17 flights a week. There'll be a 4-class 777-200 and a 3-class 777-200 each day, and then 3 flights from a Dreamliner currently planned as a 787-9. I mentioned in the introduction Dallas Fort Worth restarts. It's going to have an Airbus A350-1000. It's not going back to the A380 because the A380s are more limited at the moment in the number that can operate. Abu Dhabi comes back for the winter with a Boeing 787-9, a Dreamliner, on the BA-73, but appears not to be running next summer, so that looks like a winter only. And British Airways delivering its commitment to Bahrain. You may recall a bit of fuss last year about the withdrawal of the Bahrain route. BA reinstated it for 3 days a week, and now it's stepping up in the winter timetable to daily, 4-class 777-200 on the BA 125. Delhi transitions from an A350 to a 777 in early November on the BA 257-256. One of the things it's probably just worth saying is that I think British Airways try and avoid doing all of their changes over the summer to winter weekend schedule change at the end of October, because that does represent some challenges. Because when you change an aircraft type on a route, unless it's very close to another airport and you can swap the crews over in a taxi, like, for example, perhaps Newark or Philadelphia, British Airways has to fly the crew back who've taken the aircraft out that will no longer operate, and they have to position a crew out in the new destination on long haul, ready to bring the first aircraft back. And that, of course, is quite hungry in terms of human resource. So by staggering some of these swap overs, it allows BA to avoid having that peak in crew requirements that it probably couldn't resource. And the usual changes for Dubai: 3 flights remain, but a transition from summer to winter with an Airbus A380 dropping onto the 107-106 rotation, and 787-10s replacing the 777s on the other 2 flights. Hong Kong retains an A350. The original plan to transition to a 777 not happening. It's still shown for next summer as a 777, but I'll be doing an extra video about some shenanigans with next summer's schedules, but I'll hold you in suspense for now and move on to my next slide. Mumbai steps up in capacity. 787-8s are swapped for an A350-1000 and a 787-9. Shanghai loses its 7879 for a 4-class 777-200ER, and a regular change that we've got used to in recent times is the Australia operation, the BA15 and the 16, to Singapore and Sydney, transitioning to a 777-300 for the winter, currently a 7879. Washington DC loses its A380 because that moves over to Dubai, and the 293 and 292 appears to transition to a 787, but various different 787s. Certainly I flew on that route at the beginning of this calendar year, and they were using 787-9s and 787-10s. So that's not unusual. I mentioned Gatwick in the introduction. Bangkok flights from there resume with 6 flights a week with the Gatwick configured 777s. Las Vegas and New York disappear from the Gatwick schedules until further notice. I mean, that's a permanent change. I think that's a real shame, actually. Both of those routes have built up good business from Gatwick. I can understand why that's happening, but I know there's quite a bit of disappointment about that. And as you work your way through the detail of the British Airways timetable for the winter, what you do see is quite a few routes are missing rotations on particular days, and that of course is a collection of frequency reductions. And Los Angeles is downgraded on one of the rotations from a 777-300 to a 777-200. Probably doesn't actually make that much difference because the 777-300s have got the additional capacity really provided in the form of club suites. The actual difference between the number of seats in totality is limited. I'm not going to say a lot about short haul. There is quite a bit of coming and going as part of the regular summer to winter transitions, but flights are discontinued to Grenoble, which is a strange time to discontinue flights because it's a heavy winter sports destination. The secondary airport at Istanbul, Sabir Gökçen, and Zagreb as well in Croatia, doubling the flights to Tromsø each week from 2 to 4, and Gatwick starts operations to Graz and Rabat in Morocco. Just to summarise, because I know people are interested in the A380, so that gets a special set of slides. What you'll see through the winter is D-check work continuing in Manila, but the A380s 9 diagrams for 12 aircraft, 2 rotations to Johannesburg a day, each rotation requiring 2 aircraft because of course it sits on the ground in Johannesburg all day, so that ties up 4 aircraft, and then 2 aircraft on Miami, so both the Miami flights tied up with A380s, and actually Johannesburg and Miami account for 6 of the aircraft, and then Dubai and San Francisco and Los Angeles account for the others. So 9 aircraft in service, 1 on a refit maybe at some point during the timetable year, certainly a D-check, and 2 standby maintenance, possibly if the refit work steps up to take place, maybe there'll be 2 aircraft in Manila simultaneously. And that wraps it up. I hope you found that extra edition of the British Airways fleet news useful. Just a quick summary of some of the timetable changes, not all of them, but just a few things that I thought you'd find of interest and implications for the fleet. I will be having a look at next summer's schedules. I've warned you about that. Something to look forward to here on Mark's Trains, Planes and Trams, and I'll catch you for another video very, very soon.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and click the notification button so you don't miss any of the great trips Mark has coming your way on this YouTube channel.